Hi there, lovelies. I'm Rhonda Crimes. I'm a life and leadership coach supporting everyday people to reflect and rework your everyday stories so you can step into the everyday leadership of your families and communities and create compelling, meaningful and fruitful lives every day. Before I get too far in, I wanted to share a celebratory moment. This is my 50th video blog. I'm so excited to reach this milestone. When I started back in September 2019, I was nervous and wondering how I'd even be able to produce the second one. It turns out I love doing this, and I certainly hope that you love what I share. So, without further ado, let me say, I'm really pleased to be sharing this guidepost in my vlog edition from Brené Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection. By now, you know I've been breaking the book into bite-sized pieces with shorter videos that you can watch or listen to on the fly, helping you to avoid having to find loads of extra time. But I will keep on saying, having a copy of the book in your own hands is the way to go. So today, let's talk about the gifts of imperfection, cultivating calm and stillness. Can you believe we're at the 8th of the 10 guideposts? With each of them overlaying and interconnecting with each other, weaving together to form the transformational fabric of wholehearted life. Shall we continue with guidepost number 8, cultivating calm and stillness, letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. That doesn't hold back. And I can almost hear many of you starting to shut down, as if you choose anxiety. So, may I just ask that you give me the benefit of the doubt as I share what I learned from this guidepost? Firstly, Brené says the people she interviewed weren't anxiety-free or even anxiety-averse. They were anxiety-aware. I think that's important to point out. Anxiety is real, but it's also encouraging to realise that maybe it doesn't have to be your lifestyle. The wholehearted people in her research were committed to living differently, and they did this through cultivating calm and stillness and making these practices the norm. So what does that even mean? Once again, Brené comes through with her research-driven definition for calm as creating perspective and mindfulness while managing emotional reactivity. That is to say, yes, feel the feelings, but like I've always said, use the space between the stimulus and the response to gather your thoughts, acknowledge your feelings, and then consciously decide the next action to take. I've mentioned before how I used to ask my kids to come to me if they fell over, rather than rushing over to fuss over them and scoop them up. It was a calm way. The incident was put into perspective, and if they got up and ran to me, it was usually only a magic fairy kiss to set them straight again, or a band-aid if they could prove there was blood. If they couldn't move, I would be by their side like Wonder Woman. Which isn't to say that I don't react sometimes. In fact, I caught myself doing that just the other day. I was running late for an appointment, and the guy across the road from me at an intersection was taking forever to leave his give way sign. I felt there were a number of opportunities for him, and I couldn't move until he did. And I reacted. I felt anxious, then angry, and then I got really mouthy inside my own car, of course. The whole thing probably lasted all of a minute and a half, but it felt like an age of waiting. It was his fault if I was late. Then, as I was moving again, I caught myself and said out loud, "Well, that was a bit of an overreaction, Rondi. It's not actually his fault. You left home late." And in that moment, I was able to calm down and put the situation into perspective. I also then sent an apology out to him via the universe for my poor form, and then vowed to allow an extra few minutes onto my leave home time in the future. Brené shares that she tries to be slow to respond and quick to think. Do we have all the information we need to make a decision or form a response? Also, the effect how a calm response will have for an anxious person or situation. Panic and calm are both contagious. It makes sense to spread calm. And as always, this is a practice, and it starts with the small moments and in the small actions, like taking the time to count to 10, or permission to seek counsel, or asking for more time. To also notice what emotions are being triggered for you, and perhaps creating a repertoire of non-reactive responses instead. I experienced another example of this just recently too. I was on the receiving end this time in a coach's Facebook group where we were sharing text dialogue of a particular visual tool and asked to give our own perspective. I gave mine, which, while not opposing, it did challenge some of the other views. The coach who had asked for the feedback had also been giving quite lengthy responses to all who shared her view, and it took a really long time for her to respond to me. And then when she did, she simply thanked me for my perspective and for taking the time to respond. This was a very non-reactive response in what was quite an emotionally charged post. Brené shares that unless we had calm modelled by our parents and grew up practicing it, it's unlikely that it'll be our default response to anxious or emotionally volatile situations. She says for her, breathing is always the best place to start, and asking if she has enough information to freak out. And will freaking out actually help? The answer is always no. The second part of this guidepost is cultivating stillness, something loads of people really struggle with, especially in our busy lives where there is always something else that could be done or someone else that could be tended to. Brené shares how when she sits down to meditate and clear her mind, she spends the time switching between creating a to-do list and telling herself she's not thinking about anything. Can you relate to that? So once again, she found a definition from her research that brought a new perspective to the meaning. Stillness is not about focusing on nothingness. It's about creating a clearing. It's opening up an emotionally clutter-free space and allowing ourselves to feel and think and dream and question. And then the most important thing is to find a way that works for us to create that clearing, that will allow us to open up to the very real barrier of fear. Fear is what drives us to block, to numb, to keep ahead of, and if we stop, it can catch us. Then we have to confront the anxiety of reality. the truth that we're tired, overwhelmed, confused, or scared that we don't have the answers. But she goes on to point out that the irony is that the thing that's wearing us down is trying to stay out in front of feeling worn down. She calls it the self-perpetuating quality of anxiety. The other barrier to calm and stillness Brené identifies is how we're raised to think about these practices. The confusing messages we receive as parents and teachers scream, "Calm down! Sit still!" rather than modelling the behaviours they want to see. The world we live in is becoming noisier, more complicated, and there are seemingly more opportunities for anxiety. The antidote is to choose to do less and be less, which may not be easy. But she says, as our practices become stronger, anxiety loses its hold and we gain clarity about what we're doing, where we're going, and what holds true meaning for us. Let's take a look at this guidepost's Digging Deep section, where D is for getting deliberate in your thoughts and behaviours through prayer, meditation, or simply setting your intentions. I is for getting inspired to make new and different choices, and G is for getting going, taking action. I'll remind you once more that digging deep isn't about pushing through in the old way. Rather, it's finding a more healing way with good grace, intention, and thoughtfulness. So, Brené says her D is to include more calm and stillness, but also more exercise and less caffeine. Her I is through Harriet Lerner's book, The Dance of Connection, and how we tend to either overfunction or underfunction in response to anxiety. And her G is to experiment with different forms of still and quiet, to find what works to be more open and emotionally clutter-free. I'll be back next week to talk about guidepost number 9, cultivating meaningful work, letting go of self-doubt and supposed to. I hope you can join me again. But in the meantime, if your now is not the picture that you've painted for yourself and you'd like any help on this discovery path, or maybe something completely different that you intuitively know or feel isn't letting your true colours shine through, then please get in touch with me. You can do it really easily by leaving a comment, sending a private message, dropping me an email, or going over to my Calendly online diary using the link I've provided, and we can set up an obligation-free curiosity call and have a chat and see if we're a good fit for each other. Much love until next time.